If you've been watching the Premier League this season, you've probably noticed that it's been a little bit different. There's been a lot of new faces in the top half of the table, and it's led to a much more fun season so far. I feel like I haven't seen some of these stories that should be told on YouTube, so I'm here for that. So I'm gonna go over some of these cases that have made the Premier League much more fun to watch, more unpredictable, and also some other interesting facts so far. We'll start with the polar bear in Arlington, Texas. Nottingham Forest. No one has surprised as much as this goddamn team. Nottingham Forest. Did anyone expect this team to be where they are right now? I don't think so. Since promoting to the Premier League in 2022, Forest has been flirting around the relegation zone, barely surviving the drop by the end of the season. In fact, last season, Forest secured Premier League status on the final day thanks in part to Nuno Espirito Santo. Since after his magical time with Wolves, which saw the club promote back to the Premier League and finish 7th in their first 2 seasons, Nuno's reputation has kinda taken a bit of a hit. There was the abysmal time at Spurs that saw him get sacked after just 17 games, and then also he was sacked by a Saudi club just 1.5 years into his tenure. So when Forest signed him in the middle of the 2023-24 season, no one really knew what to expect. But fast forward to a whole year later, he's led Forest to an insane 3rd place after 24 games played. And a big part of that is because of Nuno's signature counterattack with a strong backline, as Forest currently has the 3rd best defense. Both defenders in Murillo and Nikola Milinkovic have been phenomenal. In fact, Murillo has been linked with many European giants. But this one's even more interesting because after being statistically the 2nd worst keeper in the entire league last season, Matt Sells leads the league in clean sheets. There's also Elliot Anderson, who just signed for the club this year, and he's been so important to the midfield for this team. Morgan Gibbs-White, someone who is already familiar with Nuno during his time at Wolves, has just been phenomenal. He's the ultimate catalyst. I wouldn't want anyone else in the Premier League besides him hard charging on the counter for my team right now. And then there's the unlikeliest of dynamic duos, Anthony Elanga and Chris Wood. Their chemistry has been ridiculous this year. I'm not even kidding. Watching these two on the counter is like pure eye candy. Elanga just dazzles around the pitch, and Chris Wood has the golden touch right now. The Kiwi has scored 17 goals this season and recently scored a hat-trick too in a 7-0 plucking of the Seagulls. And the funniest thing about that result is the fact that a week prior, Forest had just lost to Bournemouth 5-0. But Forest's history is one of many fallen giants in the past. This was a team that went from being with the likes of Real Madrid in the late 70s to early 80s to the 3rd division in the mid 2000s. So seeing them do this well has been super inspirational to see, and I really do hope they can return to the Champions League for the first time since 1980. It would also be cool to see a good friend of mine who is a Forest YouTuber himself. I've known him since literally the FIFA 20 career mode days. Be cool to see him go to a Champions League game for Forest, you know? He deserves it. Oh yeah, I forgot the segment where we show some of the photos of what you guys are eating while watching my videos. Again, I kind of forgot to put it in the script, so we're looking at the phone again. I'm gonna start off with an incredible looking chili. This, I have no words, genuinely no words, but this is by far one of the best things I'm gonna present on this channel so far. That looks delicious. Next we have some McNuggets. Good sauce choices too. I would always just go for the 3 sweet and sour sauces because I am just a fiend for that, but solid choices overall. I didn't get to throw this one in, but here's someone just eating some Haagen-Dazs white chocolate raspberry truffle. I mean, Haagen-Dazs is just peak ice cream, and that is a peak flavor. Finally, we got something from our fellow member of the channel, Cheesebait, who is eating burai jigai. I think that's how you say it, probably not. And then next to that is a Celsius and a soju. They're really going through it. It becomes more and more chaotic, featuring so many foods on the channel. I end up just kind of throwing in some from previous submissions just because the videos are coming in at such like insane rates right now. But again, if you like to feature on the channel, all you gotta do is tag me on Twitter or Instagram. Now let's just talk about Nuno's old team for a second, because dear God, this team has not been the same ever since he came in and all the other Portuguese imports came in. And this year has been truly awful, as the club finds themselves just barely surviving in 17th. I think they also haven't scored many goals in the last like 7 games. But if it's one thing going for them, it's Matheus Cunha, who has literally scored a 1/3 of the club's goals this season. And you know, it's always nice in a relegation battle to have that one X factor so you can rely on them and hopefully they'll keep you up. And if it's anyone who's gonna be that hero, it's Matheus Cunha. During the 2008-09 Football League 2 season, Bournemouth was just this close to ceasing to exist. They were severely struggling financially, and as a result, they were docked 17 points before the season even started. And because of an 18-month transfer embargo, all this team had was practically a squad of fishermen and a young Eddie Howe. But by some miracle, they managed to stay up and save the club from liquidation. And just 6 years later, Eddie Howe's Bournemouth made it to the Premier League for the first time in the club's history. What followed was some highly entertaining football, as the Cherries would punch above their weight with players like Joshua King, Ryan Fraser, Nathan Ake, and of course, Callum Wilson. However, the fun was over by 2020 as Bournemouth relegated, and Eddie Howe left the club after 11 years of being in charge. However, it didn't take long for the club to return and bring a new era for Cherries football. It all started when Bournemouth took a chance on Andoni Iraola back at the beginning of the 2023-24 season. And after a severely slow start, Andoni's high-risk, high-pressing style saw the team start to click, and they finished 12th. This year, however, Andoni's men look even better as the club currently sits 7th after 24 games. And keep in mind, this is after they sold their best striker Dominic Solanke. But 7th after 24 games. Not even Eddie Howe's CV has this. But just like Forest, the Cherries are holding down the fort really well as they have the 5th best defense in the league. Center back Dean Huijsen in particular has been one of the best defenders in the league, period. And in retrospect, Juventus were absolutely fleeced. Defensive midfielder Tyler Adams has stopped being made out of glass, and his role of being an absolute dog has really fit into Andoni's style. And then you got the goals coming from every which way. Evan Nielsen has 5 goals, Dangu Uatora has 6 goals. Antoine Semenyo with 7, and Justin Kluivert, son of Indonesia's current head coach, has 11. The Cherries have also managed to knock down a lot of quality sides this season. Home wins versus Arsenal and Manchester City, and then recently they thrashed Newcastle 4-1 and then burned down a whole Forest with 5 goals. So with that said, the Cherries have a great chance of qualifying for Europe this season. So, what about their rivals, Southampton? You know, the team who has played double-digit games and still has only 9 points so far. I'm just asking, like, was there really just no better representation? Like, there was Leeds. Rotherham could have maybe gotten like 10 points, I don't know. For how absolutely dog shit this team has been performing throughout the entire season, you probably wouldn't believe me if I said they were averaging more possession than half of the league. And they've also completed more passes than Arsenal, which just kind of goes to show that this team is more ass than we truly believed it to be. Just like last season, despite being in 16th currently, Everton has a top 5 defense. It's just that their attack is more non-existent than your average Dallas fan's will to live right now. But you know what? Everton fans were probably not too far off to begin the season. They bottled a 2-0 lead versus Bournemouth in the last 9 minutes of the game and lost 3-2. And then after producing another 2-0 advantage against Villa this time, Everton choked away the lead again. But going back to the 2008-09 Football League 2 season, do you know who won the league that year? Brentford. Before promotion to the Premier League, Brentford had to endure painful loss after painful loss. Their first season back in the Championship since 1993 saw them lose in the playoff semis. In 2020, Brentford fell short in the playoff final as the top seed. However, just a year later, they finally would make it to the promised land after beating Swansea in the playoff final. Thank fucking God we did not get Swansea. As a neutral, this has been one of the most entertaining teams to watch throughout the entire league. Manager Thomas Frank loves to utilize the aggression this team has to exploit opposing defenses, and his direct style of attacking shows that you, as a newly promoted side or mid-table team, do not have to turn to a manager that wants you to play like prime Barcelona. And honestly, I didn't think it possible, but Brentford has been even more entertaining to watch because some of their matches have just been pure insanity. There was Brentford 5, Wolves 3, where 6 goals were scored in the first half. There was the game versus Ipswich where they came back from 2-0 down in such lightning speed. And even 15 years later, these teams who have changed haven't really. And then of course most recently, Brentford came back from 2-0 down to draw with City in stoppage time. And the thing with the Bees too is that they are no nonsense pretty much right as kickoff begins. Because earlier this season, the team went 4 consecutive games scoring in the first 2 minutes. Brian Mbeumo was behind 2 of those goals, and so far this season, he is once again showing that the club has progressed past the need for Ivan Toney. 14 goals for him, and not too far away from him is Johan Wissa with 11. Also, remember when Mikkel Damsgaard had that really great tournament in Euro 2020, and then just disappeared into irrelevancy? Well, I'm glad to tell you that he's back 8 assists so far this season. That puts him 4th overall in the league. What I find funny though is his favorite target has been Kevin Schad. He's assisted him 3 times, the most of any other player on the squad. Also, do you know who has been the most dangerous partnership this season so far? No, it's not Palmer to Madueke or Savinho to Haaland. It's Alexander Isak and Jacob Murphy. 6 goals from them. And finally, let's talk about Big John's favorite club, Fulham. Handful. I'll be honest, for the longest time, I hated Fulham. They're a yo-yo club and also have the blandest colors known to man. Like, this club actively pissed me off when they beat Brentford in the playoff final. Now they piss me off for different reasons, but at least they're decent. Manager Marco Silva has emphasized a fluidity in attack and balance in defense. His playstyle sees Fulham play at a pretty similar pace as clubs like United and Spurs. But what sets Fulham from the rest is their ability to adapt, and in turn, it's made them more unpredictable. After 24 games, Fulham sit 9th, but more interestingly, they have the 6th least amount of losses. And they've pulled off some impressive results so far, stealing points from Liverpool and Arsenal, and they've also grabbed crucial wins against Chelsea, Newcastle, and even Forest. Fulham's games have been also very entertaining all the way until the end, as in 2 games, they actually came back from 1-0 down to win 2-1 in quite literally the dying minutes of the game. What's been even cooler is that Raul Jimenez has rediscovered his goal scoring form for the first time since his lobotomy in 2020. 9 goals this season, by far the best that we've seen at Fulham, and also the best we've seen since like 2020. Not too far from him is Alex Iwobi with 7 goals. He's been essential to Fulham's fluidity with his ability to progress the ball with ease. But the standout player this year for Fulham has been none other than American Jedi Anthony Robinson. It's pretty fair to say he's been the best left back in the Premier League this season, and also he has the most assists of any fullback in the last year with 11. In this season alone, he has 10 assists. That is quite literally Trent 2020 numbers. There's a lot of 2020 mentions here. Under Marco Silva, Fulham has gone from yo-yo to contenders for Europe in a pretty short amount of time. And if they keep this up, they'll experience their best finish in over a decade. I won't really focus too much on the title race. I don't really think it's going to be that exciting. Focus on the European spots, because everyone in that section there that you see in the top half of the table, I mean, a lot of them have not touched European football or have barely touched European football, so it should be fun. This new era is coming around, the Big Six once again being clowned for not actually being the Big Six. It's a good time in the Premier League right now. Of course, though, a massive shout out to all our members, including Janos Balas, Luke RBB, Brazilian Fury, Jeremiah Owusu Ajimang, Django, Anasir Makalankom, Alex Rod, Ulta, Miguel Munoz, Return Fire, Rory Burns, Slider Kit, Taco Okafen, The Cypriot 35, Not Windows 95 Man, Kentra Agatra, St. Terrence, Sylvia Citrus, Wise Orange, Rashford Enthusiast, Cocosaurus Rex, Samu, Cheesebait, Winder Gel, M4 Does Stuff, Finn Likes Rugby More, Davox, The Portugizer, TPSK25, Polar Protos, Van Fan, Lucia Van Croix, Guzegers Breshakivix, Mano Tango Fei, A Ghostly Owl, Coney Wolves, Mud Tanai, Sketchy Card, KM89, Apollo, Congo Jazz 1, German Sayu 7, Thrilling ADT 13, Los Milos, Petrus 249, Freya, Dominic Griffin, Kyler Krez, Mohammed Altanib, Nish, Patrick Barley, Rashford God 5, Raspberry Ale, and Unbroken Persona. If you'd like to become a member on the channel, there'll be a link down below and up the annotations. You can follow me on Twitter if you want, follow my Instagram if you like, follow my Twitch. Please follow my Twitch. We are doing a Daytona 500 stream, not this Sunday, but next Sunday, and you don't want to miss out on that. But until then, I'll see you guys. Wee! Wee! Wee!